Gary Crowley on BBC London 94.9. Welcome back to the programme. Welcome to The Flip Side. And that's Coldplay from the year 2000 and from the band's debut album, Parachute, a former single, if my fading memory serves me correctly.
The first single.
That was Shiver.
35.
Really? With a bullet?
My memory.
Still sounding good. Well, I'm extremely pleased to say, as promised in the first hour, that we've been joined by Johnny and Will from the band. Welcome along to the station.
Thanks very much.
It's been a while since we've seen each other. Let's talk about that track. You know, any kind of sort of memories sort of spring to mind upon sort of like, you know, hearing that, about maybe the writing or perhaps the recording of it. You've both got cheeky grins on your face.
It's something that we don't really listen to our music when we've finished it, and so hearing it often brings back memories. But it reminds us of why we never listen to our music, because as soon as it came on, we're like, oh, it's over compressed, it's too loud, this is too loud. You know, start picking holes in the mix. And,
Really?
Yeah, it's not healthy for us to listen to our own music.
Is that still a song that you include in the live set?
Yeah, absolutely. We still enjoy playing it live, but we don't have to worry about the mix when we play it live.
Yeah, then it is down to you. Well, no Chris with you this evening. What's the story there? He's feeling a little bit poorly, isn't he? Or certainly the throat.
It's kind of, we've just come back off a long tour of America, and we have to go back again. Well, we don't have to, but we are going back in there on Tuesday, I think. And it's basically, he's just worn out his voice, and he's a bit under the weather. And we played in Paris yesterday, and he was basically pushing it as far as it could go without kind of losing it completely. So I think he just needs a bit of time. He needs a bit of rest.
He's trying to sound like Dr. John.
Really, really right. Well, and of course you're playing live tomorrow night here at the Forum in North London. Before we talk about the new album, A Rush of Blood to the Head, which was released on Monday, let's talk about this summer if we can. I mean, you mentioned about the tour in America, because it's been very busy for you guys over the last few months, isn't it? Can you give us an idea of what you've been up to and what kind of places you've been to as well? Johnny?
Well, we did a short tour in Europe where we went round everywhere very quickly. We did about 10 countries in 8 days or something stupid, and we've just been talking to people, journalists and
more journalists, radio DJs.
We did do it. What festivals did we? We did Glastonbury, of course. That was earlier on, and we did.
How was that, Will?
That was brilliant. It was kind of the thing that we were aiming towards ever since we kind of decided. Ever since we knew that the record was gonna, the recording of the record was gonna be fine. We kind of started focusing on that as being the biggest thing, and it still is to date the biggest thing we've ever done, I think.
Why was it so important? Why was it so special to you?
Just because I've always grown up watching it on TV and hearing about these classic Glastonbury sets, and I used to go. I went for a couple of times as a paying member of the public. I didn't jump the fence.
With Superman, if right, you could have done, yeah.
But so it just seems like it's for a British band. I think we always thought it was the biggest thing you can do, and the coolest thing you can do. And we played it a couple of times. We played once on the new band's tent, and then we played at about 1 o'clock on the second stage, I think. And then I think Chris, it's quite funny because the last thing that Chris said, I think he said, right, we're going, but next time we'll see you, we'll be headlining the Pyramid stage. And lo and behold, 2 years later, it happened. So. And
what's that, having never been in a band, I mean, what's that feeling like, Johnny, when you do sort of walk out on stage and, you get that sort of, amazing reaction and what you can see as well. Can you kind of sort of describe that?
It's just it's a really strange feeling because especially for that gig I was really nervous. I've been it's a long day when you get on site at sort of 12 o'clock and you've got to wait 11 hours before you go on and try not to drink.
Did you succeed?
Yeah. I drank a lot of water just to sort of keep me doing something. But yeah, and then as soon as you walk out, all of that is gone then, and you just kind of relax. It was really strange. I've never felt so relaxed on stage as was that day, and when I've been more nervous than I'd ever been as well. It was an amazing thing.
I mean, how many gigs have you sort of like played to sort of roughly to date so far? I mean, any kind of sort of rough. I mean, I just wonder. I mean, do you still sort of get nervous? I mean, will you be nervous tomorrow night before? Yeah,
I think it definitely.
Your butterflies.
It kind of less. It depends. I don't know. Certain things get us nervous, and certain it's not necessarily the size of the gig, but if something is, if something goes wrong before, if I don't know, it's just especially often if we're pressed for time, if everything's in a rush, we get quite nervous, I think. But
Yeah.
I think it must have played. I don't know how many gigs we played.
It must
now.
be about 500.
We lost count at about we counted. We could name them all up to about 150,
Right.
and then we lost count. So it's well over 500. I
I
imagine
mean,
now.
when you say, things going wrong, that can sort of sometimes knock you sort of off centre. I mean, have you had any sort of disasters before sort of
Just
taking to
things
this?
like, it's really sad, spazzy technical stuff, but which you don't really want to know about.
Well,
Things like the
speak
piano.
for yourself. I'm always intrigued.
Just all the like in sound check when the instruments are not functioning properly and the keyboard sounds like this, and it's all.
Yeah. Does that mean that you have to kind of raise your game then, though, when you've got things like that? Sort of, it means that everybody's got to sort of like pull together.
I guess so. There's that old adage that if it's a bad sound check, it's going to be a good gig, and that's actually it's rung true for us quite a few times when we've had to do a really rushed sound check and really kind of push it through and thought this is going to be a nightmare. It turns out to be a really good gig.
Yeah.
Well, the trouble is, it means that every time we have a really nice sound check where everything goes really well,
Then you worry, and then you're even more nervous about it all going completely wrong. Let's play a track off the new album. As I said, the album was released on Monday. A Rush of Blood to the Head. We've got a couple of copies, I think, to be won in a competition, so stay close to the phones. I wanted to start with the album's opener. Always a good place to start.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about this song, Politic? I mean, why this one as the album opener? I mean,
well, as soon as we wrote it and recorded it, we just knew it was that. It was probably going to open our sets for the next 10 years as well. It was just clearly the obvious choice. I think just because we just hit everything really hard, and
We wanted a noisy, angry song to start and to kind of, it's funny. The track listing is always an important thing, and it's something that I never realised was that important until we started trying different track listings for the first album and this album. And it could have all gone extremely wrong if we hadn't put this one at the beginning, I think so.
let's have a listen. That is Coldplay from the new album, A Rush of Blood to the Head. That's the album's opener, and that's entitled Politic. And Johnny and Will from the band are here with me all the way through until 10 o'clock. And coming up very shortly, your chance to win one of a couple of copies that we have. We're still deciding on the question at the moment. You were talking a little bit earlier on about some of the things that you've been up to, this summer. We were talking about Glastonbury. Am I right in saying that a couple of you also did an Amnesty International concert last week in Los Angeles? Tell us about that, Will.
That was very odd. It was we just played our own gig in LA, and that's always a weird experience because you get kind of funny. Our tour manager always gets funny requests for people to get put on a guest list.
Like who? What kind of people are we talking
Jack
about?
Nicholson. He was on. These people are on the list, and that
So we don't know whether he actually turned up
you
or not.
never know. There was a
You
guy
never
in
know.
sunglasses I could see on the balcony, and I thought it probably him. But
He was on the list. Who else did we have? Rob Lowe, from Brat Pack actor.
Yep.
Yeah. Who else was there? There was
that girl with the hairy armpits. What's her name?
Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts there.
She was definitely there.
Yeah, she was there. Someone saw her. Drew Barrymore.
Fantastic.
Loads of.
So what venue were you
Hollywood
playing
films.
in Los
It's a place
Angeles?
called the El Rey.
Right.
But after one of our people, I think it was our agent in America, was organising this Amnesty International gig at this really nice outdoor amphitheatre place, quite small but really beautiful place, and it was with Amy Mann and Beth Orton, and he asked us if we would do like a 15-minute or just 3 songs acoustic in between them as like unannounced, just like a surprise thing, and so we said we agreed to it a while back, and then kind of Chris again had problems with his voice, and so although we'd already agreed to do this, so he was planning on just taking an acoustic guitar and singing some of our songs, but because he couldn't reach any of the high notes at all, so he was just going to sing Yellow like Johnny Cash, kind of really low, and so he was trying to work out. He was sat in his hotel room trying to work out how he was going to do it, and he just saw this guy that was swimming in the swimming pool, and he got out of the pool, and it was Mos Def, and so Chris said, it sounds so cheesy and it sounds like it was made up, but he said, look, I've got to do this gig tonight, but I can't sing, so will you come and sing for me? And so he did, and I came back, and I knocked on Chris's door and came in, and there they were, just sat in Chris's room, just with an acoustic guitar, singing Lovely Day by Bill Withers.
Really? Right.
And so they went on, and they did, they played Lovely Day by Bill Withers, and then Simple Twist of Fate, Bob Dylan, and then I went on and we did Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. And it was amazing. You know?
So you'd never met Mos Def before, literally spotted in the swimming pool, and
then he came out and he agreed to do it, and then disappeared into the night, and we never saw him again. Excellent.
And you also played, I think I'm right in saying, a little bit further on back as well. You played New York as well, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Oasis boys turned up.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, Johnny.
Well, they were playing the night before us, and we went along to see them and hang around, and and then they came.
Was that at Radio City Music Hall?
No, they played at like
Roseland Ballroom.
Yeah, nice place. We couldn't believe we when we went there. We couldn't believe we'd played there before, because we didn't remember anything about the gig, and it's a really big place, It's like 3,500 people. We just thought we must have been terrible. We went backstage and just couldn't remember any of it, nothing. And that was sometime last year, and it always that worried me greatly.
But you also slipped in another cover version, I think I'm right in saying, for your gig in New York, an Oasis tune, didn't you?
Yeah, Chris did Songbird. Yeah, it just worked out before.
Did you see Liam afterwards at all? What was his kind of sort of reaction to that being played?
Well, he seemed pretty pleased, but Noel's reaction was pretty
cussing and blinding. Yeah, hi, Kin, talking about this film. You go and play one of his Kin songs, giving us all that. They were on good form that night. They seemed to have got over their car crash ordeal. But at least they were on good form.
And talking of, people doing other people's songs as well, I mean, you guys played with U2 at Slane Castle a little while ago, and Bono did a few bars of Yellow during the set, didn't they? What was your kind of sort of reaction to witnessing that? I mean, did you know that he was going to do that? Or was that something that was kind of sort of slipped in?
I don't know. I think because Chris had been to see him in Birmingham, I think, and he'd done it there. But we'd all heard about that. I thought, that's pretty cool.
Probably just did it.
He's not
was there.
He's not going to do it again, is he? And then he was like, no way, he did it again. It was like, that was a funny experience.
Did you get to meet the man at the gig? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice fella.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very, very nice.
I mean, who have been the sort of the kind of most inspiring people that you have been able to sort of meet over the last couple of years on this sort of journey?
Well, he was cool. He was really cool. Ian McCulloch was an awesome man.
Tell us how you sort of how you met Mac. I mean, I know that the album was sort of recorded up in Liverpool, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it through sort of kind of seeing him out and about there, or?
He just sort of would have his lunch at the bar every day at the studio, and so we just met him over a bowl of soup or something, And you don't really expect to. You don't really expect him to like you. He's a proper rock star.
Could be Liam's older brother, couldn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but then he's just
said older brother.
He liked us, and we obviously liked Echo and the Bunnymen, and so it was just really cool.
Yeah. I hear Chris does a very good impression of him as well, doesn't he?
He does.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he can do his singing voice down like incredibly well.
Really?
Well. Yeah. Absolutely. Spitting image.
Let's play another track from the album. Stay close to those phones. Your chance to win one of a couple of copies that we have. The number to remember, as always, is 020-722-42000. God Put a Smile Upon Your Face we're going to play next. Okay. Any kind of sort of memories of I mean, can you kind of sort of talk me through, the kind of writing with Coldplay? I mean, a song like this, I mean, how would this have sort of evolved?
I think Chris started writing this in Sweden, in Stockholm.
First time I heard this song was on
the radio.
No, it was we were at Jules Holland. We were I can't remember when it was. Must have been last year, right at the beginning of last year or something, or the end of the year before. And it was I just remember him playing it on a really kind of low tuned acoustic guitar, and then throughout the kind of it evolved, and we all kind of started playing on it, and then we started playing it live quite a bit in America last year, and on our tours around the place. And but then when we got into the studio, it was quite a difficult one to record because we went down a different route slightly and made it a bit more kind of a bit heavier, and it kind of got a bit too heavy, and it just lost any kind of groove and
Got a bit corn.
Yeah, it got a bit cheesy. So we kind of stripped it back to its bare minimum, and this is the result.
Where do we go? Nobody knows. I've gotta say I'm on my way down. God give me
Coldplay on your BBC station for London, BBC London 94.9, and from the new album, which was released on Monday, A Rush of Blood to the Head. That's a song entitled God Put a Smile Upon Your Face. And as promised, we've got a couple of copies of the new album to be won. All I need is a question. Please, somebody give me a question. The number that you need to dial at home is 020 722 42000. Which one have you decided to go with? Johnny steps up to the microphone.
I think we were going to make it hard, but it'd probably go for the easier one, which is who are we touring with in October when we tour Britain? Who's playing with us?
Right, okay, so the up-and-coming October tour, who's going to be the band's special guest?
Yeah.
Okay, 020 722 42000. I wanted the Fred Housey question, but we were worried that, maybe some of you out there wouldn't have got that one. But anyway, let's talk, before we talk about the new album, just going back to sort of like Parachutes and when we sort of like first met, I mean, did you kind of have any sort of expectations, Will, about what you would have sort of hoped the album to achieve, or were you sort of happy that the thing had been made and that you'd got it released as well?
Yeah, I guess so. I think that was our biggest achievement, I reckon, was the fact that we managed to finish an album and actually get it out. And I don't think we deep down, of course, we wanted it to be like a successful album, but I don't think we imagined that it would be this successful so quickly. It was a bit of a whirlwind, and that's what we had a bit of a weird time just after it came out, and where we didn't really know what we were doing, where we were, how we got here, or anything. So it kind of messed with our heads a bit. But
yeah, how did that kind of sort of like manifest itself as far as you guys were concerned?
Well, it was,
the whole kind of success sort of fame thing.
Well, I still don't feel famous, to be honest. I mean, no one recognises guitarists.
Try being a drummer.
Do you like it like that?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
it's great. I don't mind people coming up, because usually they only come up because they like you. They're not likely to come up because they think you're a git. But no, it's all been great. I mean, the only thing we found weird was the whole. It was weird because the record wasn't released everywhere at the same time, so it would be released. We'd find ourselves in Germany in the middle of winter where no one had heard of us, and we were just miserable. We were thinking, we're doing well in Britain. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
What I mean, how did sort of I know it's difficult for you to sort of answer on behalf of Chris, but how did kind of Chris sort of kind of cope with it? I mean, being the kind of sort of the front man, did it kind of sort of mess him up a little bit?
I think it did, to be honest. Yeah. I think it's always difficult because, like you said, it's the kind of he's the kind of the focal point of the band. It's a thing that everyone always kind of latches onto, which is a job that I don't envy by any means. But I think it's the same kind of thing. It was just, we all thought that we somehow cheated to get where we were, and we didn't really kind of. We had this. We knew that we're a very odd band because we have a lot of self-belief. We're really confident in our own ability, but we're always incredibly surprised when anyone else thinks that we're any good. So, that was what characterised our kind of our thinking for most of that time. So we just felt like we cheated somehow to get where we were, and that people that were coming to see us didn't actually really like us. It was just that they'd been told to come and watch by someone else, kind of thing, So it was kind of weird, and it wasn't until like maybe last year, some point last year, when we actually started enjoying the touring again. And maybe it's because we had a lot of new songs that we were writing, and we could see the end of Parachutes, and we could see the kind of
the beginning of the new
beginning,
album.
yeah, songs like
the next stage.
In My Place had been written and was coming through, and there were new songs that were coming in, and that kind of gave us hope. And then we started enjoying playing live a bit more, and started kind of realising that people were coming to watch us because they actually liked us, not because they
were being told by
yeah.
the press or what have you. Yeah, I mean, I guess I was telling you a little bit earlier on about me watching the Beatles anthology. I mean, I guess the good thing is that there's 4 of you to to kind of sort of fall back on. When somebody's maybe feeling a little bit low, and vice versa or what have you. I mean, and that's important, I guess, isn't it, to have that support?
Well, it must be crazy for solo artists, because they have to do all the interviews themselves. They have to do everything. It's just. None of us could deal with doing all of that,
Yeah.
We can spread it around, get the foot soldiers in.
Super subs, right? You got to go. Come on. But I mean, have you been able, sort of, in sort of hindsight, to kind of give any thought as to why you think, Parachutes, did so phenomenally well as well? I mean, have you kind of sort of given that any thought, or is that sort of something maybe to kind of sort of leave for a little bit further on down the line?
I think 40 years ago. I'd like to say it was because we're great and it's a great album, but we were just lucky, I think. I think so many people do well, or a lot of people do well who aren't really, or I don't think are that good, and lots of people who I think are really great don't sell very many records.
The success they deserve, yeah. It's funny.
So we don't know.
Let's play another track. One of my favourites from the new album. This is Daylight. Any kind of sort of memories, stories regarding the sort of writing or perhaps the recording of this one?
I remember not liking it when I first heard it, because Chris. In fact, it happened. I think it was at we were recording something else.
The Scientist.
I think we were recording The Scientist, and then Chris said we all went in for dinner, and he stayed behind and was on the piano, and he came back in and said, I've just written this new, I've got this idea. He played on the piano. I thought, that's not very good, is it? And then, it's the one time that I'm so glad that I was proved wrong, because this is probably one of my favourite songs on the album now. So it's, but it was just difficult trying to hear it when it was just piano, and it came together really quickly, and we're pleased with it, I think.
BBC London 94.9, and Johnny and Will from Coldplay, my very special guest. It's our special here on BBC London 94.9. Of course, the band live tomorrow evening, and I think I'm right in saying that you don't have a support band as such for the show tomorrow evening. But
you are correct.
Am I correct in saying that? But you have some sort of film being.
Yeah,
but what's that all about?
Well, we were touring around in America and Europe. We were playing really small venues, and we've got quite a lot of equipment, and so to make it easier for our crew, we decided not to bring a support band and just take a telly, really.
So what are people going to see tomorrow evening if they get there early then?
EastEnders.
Yeah, bargain hunters.
David Dickinson.
He's great, isn't he? Oh, Orange One, I love him. My dad absolutely adores him. No, but seriously, what is going to be...
It's a film called One Giant Leap, which is, you may have heard of that project from there was a single released off it with Maxi Jazz from Faithless and Robbie Williams.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's Duncan, who used to be in a band who I was a big champion of. Kev, you're like this. Back in the 1980s, called Eye Level. Duncan
Bridgman.
That's right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And it's Duncan Bridgman and Jamie Cato.
That's the other fella. Yeah.
Was one of the original members of Faithless as well, and they just went around the world with a portable recording studio and a video camera, and just basically got loads of people to collaborate on making these tunes, and it's just like a kind of sort of documentary, but it's also got loads of people like Bono and Michael Stipe's in it, and
that's right,
Michael
and Robbie
from Spearhead.
Oh right,
loads of people, and Dennis Hopper, and just people talking about important issues, and then just to the background, this was really cool music.
Right, so
It's
that's a
good
one-off
film.
though, because you're going to have a special guest on the October tour,
Yes.
and that's our question. We're looking for the name of the special guest, 020-722-4000. Let's kind of sort of dive in and talk about you know, the new album. By the way, you heard Daylight from the band's new album, which was released on Monday. Am I right in saying that you kind of sort of went in the studio initially and had a go at recording the album, but you weren't too happy with the results?
Well, we did about two or 3 months in London, and we hadn't been in London for a long time, and because you know we live here, we had a kind of day jobbing a bit. You know, we weren't entirely, our minds weren't entirely on just recording. You know, so we went away on tour in America for a week or so, and then came back and realised we had a hell of a lot more work to do, and spent the next 6 months doing that work.
Up in Liverpool.
Yeah, it was about half up in Liverpool.
Right.
Then we finished off back in London. It's okay to finish off, but you know, I think you have to be
Easy to take your eye off the ball when you're here. Tell us about your relationship, you know, with Ken Nelson, your kind of co-producer, because it's a co-producing thing, isn't it?
Yeah, he's the same. We used him on the first album as well, and he was, from the moment we met him, he was just instantly very calm, very not like a classic record producer. No, not your big armchair producer that shouts instructions at people. He's very kind of hands-on, and is very into kind of capturing the mood of a band and not kind of processing it all out. And so he was really integral in getting the sound for the first album, and we really thought that there was a point where we thought, well, are we going to have to get someone, you know, some radical producer to come and do the second album, because it needs to be, you know, it needs to be a bit more whatever, edgy. But we were convinced that we were changing it enough in ourselves to be able to create that sound, and
Right.
we wanted someone that was going to be able to capture that kind of vibe, and Ken is really good at doing that. And
Well, let's hear another example, if
Sure,
we can, another track from the album, because I want to squeeze in another
Yeah,
couple
absolutely.
before the late show. This is Clop.
Lights go out and I can't be saved. Tides that I tried to swim against pulled me down upon my knees. Oh, I beg and please, singing, come out of things unsaid. Shoot an apple off my head, and a trouble that can't be named.
Been a Coldplay 1 hour special here on the Gary Crowley programme, and Johnny and Will been my very special guest from the band's new album in the shops from Monday. The new album entitled A Rush of Blood to the Head. That is Clocks. I mean, how does this album, $64,000 question, how does this album, you know, for you guys kind of sort of, you know, compare to the first one? I bet you haven't been asked that one on the 4-month promotional tour that you've been on. But I mean,
well,
you know,
Gary,
still haven't
that's
thought
an
of an
interesting
answer.
question, that one. But I mean, how does it sort of, you know, compare for you guys?
I don't know, to be honest. It truly is. It is the one question you get asked probably more often
Yeah.
than any other one, but it's still the one that is hardest to answer, because we don't really know. You know, we just
Too close to it.
too close to it, but also too just kind of, I don't know. We just do it. We just do whatever. You know, it's not like we didn't sit down and think, right, how are we going to make this one different? And it just kind of happened. You know.
Yeah.
It's just a natural progression and a consequence of us listening to different types of music, playing it live a lot more. And
Tell us about that music that you've been sort of listening, you know, in the sort of run up to the recording of the album, and perhaps during, and that does have an influence, does it?
Oh, absolutely, of course. I mean, a couple of us went through really, really big country phases where we just would listen to nothing but country.
Just country or country and western, both types of music.
both types. I mean, Guy even bought a Stetson.
Stetson and about 3 pedal steels.
He'll be able to wear them in America, won't he? Yeah, they'll go down.
Absolutely.
But what else apart from the country?
Oh well, we only really got into Echo and the Bunnymen just before we started recording.
What sort of, you know, kind of prompted you to sort of, you know, get into them? Anything?
I don't know. People always say they're really good, and I think I'd only ever really heard. I remember their cover of "People Are Strange" because it was on the Lost Boys. You know, it's not very cool. But I was only about 8 or 9, so, but I remember that. And of course, I knew Nothing Lasts Forever, but nothing else. I didn't know anything. So it was kind of a whole.
It's been exciting discovering all of that
absolutely.
old stuff. Yeah. What about for you, Will, as well? I mean,
I was getting into Nick Cave, and I always loved Tom Waits, but I think recently, it was the Nick Cave thing, and what else? Joy Division,
right?
New Order, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, how do you kind of, how would you sort of, compare the kind of sort of music scene of that kind of sort of period, that sort of early 80s time to kind of what's happening now as well? I mean, is this an exciting time for music as far as you guys are concerned?
I think so. I think there's great new bands. I mean, you were around in the early 80s.
The late 70s as well, yeah. Well, I do look back on it sort of like fondly, but, sometimes I worry whether it's, looking back with kind of sort of rose-tinted spectacles. But I guess if you guys are kind of discovering that stuff for the first time and they're standing the test of time, well, that's what it's all about.
There's bad music and good music from every year of every decade,
Yeah.
And for us, we were kind of just a bit young to get the cool stuff in that period. So we were force fed like
Jive Bunny
and Bros.
Well, maybe at that point it's a good point to stop.
Yeah.
Listen, thanks for dropping by this evening. Give our best to the other twos and have a good concert tomorrow evening. All roads lead to the Forum up there in Kentish Town. We're going to play out with the Scientists. I understand there is talk of this perhaps being a single.
Yeah.
There is some talk.
I've heard
there
that.
Is some talk, yeah. And but any stories about this song, the kind of sort of recording of this one, perhaps you'd like to share with us?
Well, this song really turned everything around for us in the recording process. It was the first song we wrote when we moved studios up to Liverpool, and everything suddenly became a lot more spontaneous, and we'd record really quickly. And when Chris sang and played this, I think it was the first time he'd played it all the way through. And so everything happened a lot quicker, and it was a lot more exciting all of a sudden.
Come up to meet you, tell you I'm sorry. You don't know how lovely you are. I had to find you, tell you I need you, tell you I set you apart. Tell